So I'm just not allowed to do that anymore because I can't clap.
Yeah, why can't you clap? What's with that?
Because, I just don't believe in myself enough. I have low
You get to
self-esteem.
that, you tell yourself you can do it until you get to here, and then you're like, I can't do it, I can't do it, and then just goes.
Yeah, just get it in my head. I think it's gonna hurt too much, and I just think people are gonna judge me for my clap. It's like a man's made by his clap, right?
Jared.
People say
Jared was really good at his clap.
See, people say when a man is judged by their handshake. Not true. It's the clap.
This is a clap, yeah.
It's not true. You can have a weak handshake, but if you can clap with the clap of an angel, like
Clap of an angel.
See, I find if you want to become a good clapper, you have to start off small. You have to start off with just the 2 fingers.
you got to practice for quite a while. It's like anything.
And then once you get that timing and that firmness right,
you go to 3, right?
Then you go to the 3.
Yeah.
And then you go to the 4.
Yeah.
And then you slowly work your way to the palm of your hand, so you get that real pressure thing, and then you just got that.
Like the finger poke of doom, where like there's the martial artist that can hurt you with one finger. Well, there's the myth about the one finger clapper.
Yeah, that's right. There's a
just boom,
and it just flattens whole forest.
Yeah, trees
everywhere. Scorn. They had to kick him out of Australia because he's responsible for the deserts. Because they used to be just forests there.
Yeah.
But he went into there and he was practicing.
Yeah.
And he clapped with his one finger.
He did it for 50 years. It was like a true anime arc, really. That person that trains for years and years and years. And
yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. They don't tell you that in the Genesis story. What's up and welcome to the Made Creative Podcast, episode 12. My name is Sam.
And my name is Connor.
Okay, I won't introduce him. He's going to introduce himself.
My name is Connor.
My name is Sam, yeah.
Nice.
My name's Joel.
Sam, Joel's a good name, actually. Joel, there's a certain weight to the J of that. Joel,
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I have a biblical name. I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a biblical name.
I have 2 books dedicated to me.
You have 2 books dedicated to you?
To me.
To you, personally. Yeah, nice.
Did you not know?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Anyway, today is just us 2 because we had Connor as our guest artist.
We certainly did.
But before we get to that, Connor, last week we released an album.
Yes, we did. And it is unbelievable. Sam and I, when we got the master tracks back, we had an emotional moment where the 2 years of I would say hard work.
Yeah, I would
very
definitely
hard work.
say that it wasn't easy work.
Yeah, it was. It was fantastic. I loved it. Loved every second with it. If I could relive it, I would. Would change nothing.
Let's do it again with more songs.
Yeah, we'll do it again with more songs at some point. We've already started writing, so. But we got to. But we got to work on sharing these songs for now.
Yes.
But yeah, it's exactly that. It's been hard work and it's been a whole bunch of fun. And really, really looking forward to seeing what you all think of it. It'd be really great if anyone who has listened to the songs or has heard it, if they could give a little bit of feedback, maybe drop a favourite. A favourite would be interesting.
I think that's what you do. That's what the kids tell me you do.
Yeah, so if you just say, whatever your favourite song is, that'd be pretty cool.
I mean, we definitely did share a moment one weekend when we got the master tracks back. We made Joel play them for us. He didn't want to play them for us until he checked them. We're like, no, Joel, you have to.
You have to wait. You have to wait for us.
You have to.
And they were really good. They were fantastic.
Yeah, and we got to the end and we were like, it's the weirdest thing is that I'd never thought about this, but anytime we'd listen to the songs, you had to click on each song.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that we heard them go through without us having to click. Sounds like the dumbest thing in the world, but it is actually like, oh my gosh.
It just goes from one song to the next song.
Yeah.
And I guess it makes it feel finished.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, oh, now you don't have to like, they're not individual files, they're all one thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really nice, and that got released last Saturday. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
I don't know at this stage if it's out on all the platforms.
Yeah, because sometimes it can take up to a month or something.
Yeah, it can take a long time.
It can take up for a month.
So it might not be on all the platforms, but it's on some of the platforms.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll even edit a list of the platforms here. Because I'm
Or
trying,
here.
yeah.
You're trying to get better at editing, yeah? Here?
This is what I'm going to do now. Every podcast, I'm giving myself a challenge of like editing something.
Right,
in.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
And you got like, you got to have one streaming platform like here, and
Yeah.
then another one here, and then another one here.
Yeah, one day we'll have a Patreon, and at the end, I'll run the list of names down. And that'll be exciting.
Oh, that'll be exciting.
And I'll highlight
Yeah.
one.
Just one?
Yeah, we'll point to it.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, that's the challenge to myself.
Yeah,
But-
that is the challenge.
So we did that. The other thing is we're actually starting to play in churches as well.
Yeah,
which
we're
is
playing in more and
wild.
more churches, which is awesome. And we're so fortunate to be able to go and do that. I get so excited. You know, we get a message from a church, and they're like, "Oh, can you come play at our church?" And we're like, "Yeah, for sure."
Yeah.
And even though that's exactly what that's one thing we want to do, I'm still surprised. I guess I'm still like, not in the sense of we don't deserve it, but it's something that I've been excited to do for a long time, and now it's actually happening. I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
And we haven't ever had to go to a church and say, "Hey," like we've had churches come to us and ask.
Yeah, we've
You know, we thought we would be sending emails out and stuff.
Yeah,
to
that's right. And
people.
like handing albums over to churches and being like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think and stuff? But yeah, we've just been getting invitation after invitation, and it's been
Yeah. I will
Amazing.
say, if you want to hear us play live in a worship setting at a church, that we're going to be playing at Carey on the 6th of June, which is after this podcast. So you have time to go and see us
There you go.
and worship with us.
that's right.
Yeah. But
So you can
excited
come on down
about
to
that.
Carey Baptist Church. So,
I may not be there, but you will definitely be there.
I'll definitely be there.
Yeah. Because I guess that's the other big thing is I have a job now.
Yeah, that's right. You have a job now. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a bit wild after not having a job for a year,
Yeah.
but I now have a job.
But
I'm a
yeah.
pastor again.
Yeah, God gave us sufficient time off, I guess, to work on everything and
Yep.
get everything set up and ready to go,
Yep.
which has been really good.
Yep.
And I think we all still very much part of our individual churches and in their communities. So, but it's exciting to see people start new journeys in new places. So,
Yeah.
but you're settling in well.
Yeah,
So-
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got commissioned
I mean-
last week. That was cool.
I mean, I'm yet to go down there. I've been meaning to go down and to check out your church.
Yeah.
And because that'd be interesting, to meet some of the pastors there and some of the people there. So, but anyways,
Anyways, so kind of performed a song on this channel called Here, video of challenging myself again.
Okay. Oof.
There's like a little bit of a clip going right now, just like around here, hopefully. Yeah, maybe.
okay.
I'm worried.
I mean, you're giving yourself a lot of stuff to do.
I am, but then editing the podcast gets way more interesting.
Sure.
So, you performed a song called Here.
I did, yes.
Now, some people may have missed some of the lyrics. We did put them in the description. And I want to treat this song with the respect it deserves. Because it is a lovely sounding song, but it is about something pretty serious.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely about something very, very serious. It's interesting because I was thinking before, I was like, I wonder, as people listen to it, will they be able to understand, or will they need answers? And I guess some of the lyrics are very literal, shining lights, red and blue. Some you can kind of figure out what that's referring to, but some of them are definitely more subtle. But I'm definitely interested to see if people did get something from it, because I remember I was chatting to someone, and then they said, "Oh, you always got to be a little bit careful on explaining your songs, because when you explain your songs, it stops other people from being able to take their own version away from it
Sure.
and their own definition." I'm going to explain it today. So if you don't want that, if you don't want to understand the meaning of that song and what's the
Skip
story
ahead
behind
to
it.
this time.
Oh man.
Future Sam is not gonna like
Yeah,
me.
that's right. Future Sam's not going to like past Sam.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, okay. So just tell us what the song is, I guess, referencing, because it references quite a big thing that happened in your life.
Yeah.
Before I met you, I think we worked out it was the year before I moved here to Perth.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But it's quite a big thing that I didn't know about for quite a while into knowing.
Yeah, I don't really advertise it. I've had a couple of people sort of. I tell like a couple of people here and there, but some people I know they don't want to hear it. They don't like me. They don't like that sense of me. What year was it? It would have been.
I think you said it was 2016.
Yeah, I think 2016. I think something like that. Yeah, it's a long time ago now, isn't it? But so 2016, I had my own business, and I was on my way to my workplace, and I was driving along the freeway, and I had an epileptic seizure behind the wheel of my car at 100 kilometers an hour, and then hit the side barrier, and then turned, and then crashed. Did a head-on collision straight into the side of the freeway. Throughout the seizure, I managed to jerk around enough and unclip my seatbelt, and then I was thrown headfirst into my passenger footwell. And then from there, I woke up, basically. I don't really remember much. All that I was told was there was a police officer who saw everything go down, and he sort of was the one that filled in all the blanks. I don't really remember anything. I don't remember about the seizure or about... He just said that I must have unclipped it, because I knew I did clip my seatbelt in, so I must have unclipped it. But as I woke up in the passenger footwell of my car, totally out of it, obviously, I totally lost my memory. Didn't know who I was, didn't know where I was, didn't know what day of the week it was, didn't know my name. And I looked across to my driver's side, which was just wiped out. It was gone. There was nothing left to my driver's side. So had I not unclipped my seatbelt mid-seizure and got thrown to the passenger side, I would have been wiped out with the rest of my car. And the cop that witnessed everything, he came up to the car, and I remember forever haunting words, which were, I was expecting to pull a corpse out of that one. That was very, very full-on thing to hear. But that being said, I didn't understand what was going on at the time. So, but it's only haunting because I understand now. But yeah, got loaded into the ambulance, and then the ambulance said, what's your name? And I just paused. I didn't know anything. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know nothing. So what I did do is I patted around for my wallet, and I found my wallet. That's what those lyrics mean in the song. I found my wallet, and she took my wallet out of my pocket, and she opened it up and she said, "Your name's Connor." And I'll never forget the unreal feeling of someone telling me what my name was and how bizarre that was. Anyway, yeah, went to the hospital, got checked up, and walked away basically totally injury-free. I had phantom pains in my leg, which was basically my body saying that there was pain that wasn't there.
Yep.
And they went away, but I couldn't help limping, and I felt like there was pain, but there was no pain. There was no injury. So I walked out of there. I don't know what else to say except for that whole scenario is a miracle. And
your mouth was messed up a fair bit, though.
Yeah. So I did have because of that, I had a lot of dental issues.
Which I don't know, that's something we made jokes about when we were doing the vlogs for the recording. But you would come in every couple of weeks with a numb mouth because you'd have to go
that's right.
Get dental stuff.
I have to do more dental stuff. Yeah,
because you've slowly been rebuilding that.
Slowly rebuilding my mouth and keeping that all together. So. But that was probably the easiest part of that, the crash, because I was unconscious for most of it and I was just plodding along. At that point, I wasn't even Connor. I was just existing.
Yeah.
And it was totally bizarre. And I remember it was... I just didn't know what to do. I was so confused, so lost. Eventually, I got my memory back, and I could remember things, and I remember what day it was, and I remembered what I did, and everything like that. But it was so hard to go back to normal life because I couldn't drive. I wasn't allowed to drive anymore. I couldn't drive for 1 year, and just all my friends, they came around me then, when I really needed it, and they just. Shout out to Jaden for driving me around like everywhere. I had plenty of mates who were driving me around everywhere, but I specifically remember Jaden because I don't know. I feel like I became really good mates with Jaden at that time. Jaden was the one that we've had on the podcast before, and yeah, it was just a really heavy time, and I never dealt with it. I didn't deal with it probably till a year later, and I was there. I was on Serpentine Inters camp, and Sam was doing the messages at that time on that camp. I think you were. I could be wrong. It might have been the year before or something. But and my brother and my cousin were also leading on that camp, and there was a point where we all split it up into groups, and we were all going to pray individually. I remember we were sitting there praying. And this is like a year later. This is a long time later, like almost a year. Don't think it was quite a year. I think it was like 9 months or something like that. And my brother just started praying, just like thanks God for like keeping Connor safe through that whole ordeal and everything like that. And man, it just hit me. I was so overwhelmed by like the love that my like family had, I guess, for me. And my cousin prayed the same prayer then and there, and I just started weeping and I was crying. I couldn't control it anymore. I was just pouring out, and like I was finally being honest with myself and all these like and all the things that were on top of me, and like because they would like fill my head with like just like I'm not capable of doing anything anymore. I went from someone who was, I would say pretty determined. I had my own business and I was doing a whole bunch of other stuff too, having nothing, no car, no nothing, absolutely nothing. And for my, I don't know, for the longest time, I thought it was my problem to deal with, but the fact that it was a burden to other people because other people cared was a huge comfort, I guess, and I guess it allowed it for me to deal with it. And I remember just wept and I just cried and I just wept and cried and wept and cried and wept and cried. And then over that year where I couldn't drive and I couldn't really work and I couldn't do anything, I just my only solace really was writing songs. And almost every single song I ever wrote was always start off as, some random song that I'd come up with. I'd improvise lyrics to it and I'd write the song, and then it would almost always end up being some kind of worship song. At first. It would always be a worship song at first, and then it would turn into some other song. It would always start off as just like worshiping. That's what it was. Like the whole year I was just worshiping God, and then like over time like the lyrics would change and I'd come up with something different, and then it would be the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again with a different tune, different lyrics, but same meaning, just glorifying God throughout that whole year. And I used to joke about it. I used to say, every single song I've ever come up with always started off as a worship song. I used to make jokes about it. I used to be like, it's funny that, like it just shows like it shows that these songs, these songs actually have meaning and they actually have carry weight, and God cares about them. And then over the years, slowly getting my life back together again. I had had a car that my brother actually gave me. It wasn't a great car, but it was something to get me from A to B, and I was so grateful for it. It's so fantastic that he could do that. But yeah, life was really, really hard for that time, and I guess I just tend not to talk about it too much. And I think that's generally why it shocks people. It's because I do rarely talk about it. But it just like that song for me is that whole year when I was just playing guitar. Like, to me, that was all I could understand for reason. That's that whole chorus is like, that's the day I should have ascended. That's the day I should have died. Like, I should have died that day. But I didn't. And that's left me questioning why I'm still here. And that's where that song came from. That song came from that confusion and doubt and like, why am I still here? And then you get to the very last thing, the very last sort of section of the song, and it says, even though I'm pilfered from places that are familiar, so even though I'm taken out of my comfort zone, taken to places that I'm unsure of, taken to places that make me question where I am and what I'm doing, he's still right there. He's still right there. He's here. He is right here, and I don't ever have to worry about him not being there because he is always there. And it was a very, very hard time in my life. But I guess I was in denial as well about it, so I just ignored it for so long. And I don't know if that made it harder to deal with, but at least avoiding it for a long time. And it annoys me now because I've had friends lose like partners and friends, and like in the similar circumstances, maybe not necessarily like a seizure, but like they have a car accident and then like that's it, they're gone. Like, why not me? I was in that same position. And like and the whole thing was just struggling with purpose and understanding God's will, and I couldn't ever get a firm grasp, I guess, of that. And it took me a long time before I could really say, like, slow down and understand it and understand the purpose behind it. It's what we were talking about on the last podcast. It was we were saying, you know, faith is one of those things where we see where we've come from, and then we make understanding from that, and that's where we draw our faith. And in that same sense, yeah, I look back at it, and it wasn't just like a pointless event, even though at the time it seemed like just a pointless event. Like, I just had this horrific thing happen to me, and it was an absolute miracle I survived. I would say it's rare that anyone survives a 100-kilometer-hour crash, no matter how it happens. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah. Well, I remember you showing that to me that song to me when we were just traveling, being mates in a car to volleyball and back, and you saying, I haven't really showed this to many people. Yeah, no, I don't. I just the fact that it's out there now is crazy. It's a very, very raw song, like in terms of. But when I asked you, would you be willing to do this when we were trying to find a guest, and it just didn't work out, and we've been very busy. Yeah. When we went through the process of like doing the title and promoting it, like I almost didn't want to promote it at all because I didn't, and I especially never wanted to say this is a song about when Connor almost died or something like this. Right. Because like I really just didn't want, you know, you being quite quiet about it and stuff. So I wanted to be respectful of that. But I wanted to, and maybe it's because of some of the stuff that's been going on for us personally behind the scenes as well. Yeah. I did think it was a valuable thing to put out and as discussion to have, because we had some things happen in the background, which I'm not going to go into detail of, but again made us, I think I said to you, I understand that while God doesn't cause the things that are difficult, he can turn all things to good, but I don't understand how he can turn
That's a good. Yeah,
to
that's
good.
right. Yeah.
And this song was very much that process in
Yeah.
a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
Like it's how he turned what seemed like something that just how
Yeah, that's right.
to good.
Yeah.
And kind of working that process out. Do you feel like you've got more of an do you feel like you've learnt something in that process that
Yes. I think a lot of people who, let's say, okay, I'll phrase it like this: people who have been involved in a miracle, because it's what it is. There's no way around it. I mean, I can't deny. I cannot deny that throughout my seizure, I unclipped the seat belt, which is a tiny little button about that big, and I managed to unclip it, and then throw myself across to the other side of the car, and that saved me. If I was stuck in that seatbelt, I would have been crushed along with the rest of my car. Like, yeah, there's no denying it. But because I was a part of this miracle, there's an understanding, even though there's considerable amount of trials in it. You get a lot of understanding out of it, not necessarily because of the event, but because you have so much time to think about it. Because you're always thinking about it. I mean, I don't think about it as much these days. It's been a long time, but at the time, it was, oh man, I dwell on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just every day I was just thinking about it, and it wasn't even in a bad light. It wasn't like I never shook my fist at God, and being like, why did this happen to me? But from the start, I was like, I need to understand why this happened to me, because I don't understand.
Yeah.
I know too many people that didn't survive. I've heard too many stories of people not surviving, let alone totally injury free. Like, and that to me was the thing that I just couldn't understand. In lots of different ways, you can pull lots of different meanings and ideas from that. So for me, it's like, is it a way of him showing his power? That he can be like, look, I can put you this close, and then you'll be perfectly fine. You don't have to worry. No matter how dark or deep you go, you don't have to fear, because I'm right here and I'm in control. Is that what he's trying to say? But then that leads me on to other questions and stuff. Yeah, his power. I think. I mean, because of his purpose. Because its purpose could be showing his power, in that I don't have to be afraid of things because God's in control. Also, it could just be a purpose of purpose. This is one thing I dwelled on for a long time, was the whole thing of, I do have purpose, and that's what this is in the song. I do have purpose, because otherwise I would have just ascended. So in that sense, that gives me purpose. I don't have to be like, is it really for me? Is it really? I don't have to question that, because if God wanted to take me, he could have taken me then, and no one's to blame. It's not like there was a human responsible for that.
No. Yeah.
So that in itself has given me purpose. That's why there's that arrogant line is like, I'm too arrogant to admit it, that I still have purpose here. And one thing I tried very hard not to do, and I think I avoided it, was just pitying myself. I never fell into that pity of myself. I was more confused than anything else, and that was probably the hardest thing for me to deal with. Just being like, oh, what am I doing? Like, my whole life reset for that. Like everything that I basically earned. I had a nice car at the time, but not anymore. My insurance company dodged the check, so I didn't get any money for it. So I couldn't buy a new car. I couldn't drive. I couldn't go anywhere. I didn't have a job anymore because I couldn't work for what I was already doing. And my whole life was just reset. All these years that I spent trying to do stuff just disappeared. And that's why I was like, no, I want to do something different. Like I want to shift away. I tried to restart my business, but I just couldn't. You know, it was impossible. So, and that led me on to being like becoming more and more and more. I mean, I was already pretty serious about music, but even more serious about music and songwriting and being a part of that. And I didn't know where that would lead, but there was still like, we've talked about it before, but there was still a lot of doubt. You know, there was still a lot of doubt that I was capable of my abilities and I'd be able to do these things. But that car accident and the understanding I got from that is something that helped me push through and do it anyway. I would say up to Encounter Night, that was what was pushing me throughout the whole thing. And then it was giving up that doubt to God and being like, oh no, you know, God has a purpose for me. It's not merely just a purpose. And in that growth, we've obviously Made Creative was born, and a whole bunch of other stuff, you know, like collaborating with different musicians and playing things and meeting people and being a part of different ministries. And all of that is from that one miracle. 6 years ago, or whatever, 5-6 years ago. It was hard as well. It was really hard, but it made me into an individual that I guess I like to think. It's interesting because I still haven't met someone, I guess, with a similar situation. I'm not saying they don't exist. I just haven't met them. And so I always attribute it to, maybe sometime in the future I'll meet someone like that, and then I'll be able to be like, oh, well, you know, I've actually thought about this a lot. I've had a similar situation. You get a lot of like mental illnesses in society, for example, where people can relate. Like depression's a pretty. I'm going to use the word popular, but I don't mean in that sense. Like depression,
Common.
you know, common, like or more common. I wouldn't say necessarily common, just more common. So people with depression, you know, or who have gone through depression, can actually go and talk to people with depression now and be like, you know what, like I've been through this too. And I'd always see that. I always see that person going through those. Someone who's gone through the trials, been healed of the trials, and now is helping other people with the same trials. But for me, I didn't get that. I don't. There's no one else I know with similar trials to me. I mean, sorry, there are people, but I haven't met them yet. And I always, because that was one of the other things I was like, oh, that's the purpose. So somewhere along the lines, I'm going to be able to help someone else. But if anything, it's with what's going on at the moment, that almost stifles me, because I did survive, and I know other people have been in a situation that haven't, and I've been trying to understand that, and it's obviously very, very different. But I want to help, but I don't know how, because once again, I don't have that empathy to be able to be like, hey, I understand how you're feeling. Yeah, and it's very, very challenging. But purpose, so far, my purpose has led me on an amazing journey of being a part of Made Creative, being a part of music, being a part of ministry, and being a part of worship that I don't think I would be on. And I worry what I would have been on if I didn't have that. If I didn't stick with that plan, if I didn't stick with that, with his will, if I didn't follow that, what would have happened to me? I always find that at some point in everyone's life, people have an opportunity to turn away from God. And it's so important in that moment where they decide, no, I'm going to push through and I'm going to stick with it. And I guess in hindsight, I'm proud of myself that I didn't chicken out of bitterness.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that was a very long answer, but
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's your time. You can say all that
Yeah.
stuff. It's a big topic, and we wanted to kind of. I joked around at the start more because I think, it's pretty full on. And
yeah, we knew it was going to be.
We don't always. We like to joke as well.
Yeah, we
and
like to have.
Obviously, you're a bit further along the process than just it immediately happened, and then
Yeah, that's
we're
right.
talking
Yeah.
about it. And so we also bring a bit of humour into the mix
Yeah, that's
as well.
right, yeah.
So yeah, I think that may do it for today. Hey,
Yeah.
you could probably talk and talk and talk.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, I could. I mean, there's like, this is years and years and years of thinking about a specific event and the reasoning behind that, and trying to understand the bigger picture of why God has it the way that He has it. I think it's really good. I think it's a good thing. It's a great, amazing, powerful thing out of such a dark moment for me, for my personal history. But then, like, I mean, God works that way multiple times throughout the Bible. He doesn't take the people who are high priests or whatever necessarily. He loves the individual, and he loves he came to save those. He came to save the sinners and not the righteous ones. And so, in the same sense, out of what seems like, I guess a darkness, can come this amazing light.
Yeah. I think that's the real story at the end of the day. From it is
that's right.
that is the good and the way that you've processed and gone through it and come out the other side, and now use it as a point of seeing what God's doing in your life and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's very cool, and it's a very cool story to tell.
Yeah.
Not just this horrible thing happened to you. No, it's the
outcome. It's the miracle
Yeah.
that's come from that. That's amazing.
yeah.
And it's definitely hard. I remember even before this, I was chatting to. I remember a long time ago, I lost a job. I can't remember why. I feel like. Anyway, regardless, I lost my job, got fired, and I remember it was pouring with rain, and the place I was working at said I wasn't allowed to stay on the property. So I was out in the rain. I didn't have a license at the time. I was pretty young. And I remember I just wept from the place of work where I worked all the way to the petrol station, which was about 2 k's away maybe. So I walked all the way and I cried, but throughout the whole crying, all I was doing was praising God. And I'll never forget that, because I was like in a very upsetting time. I remembered above all things to worship and honor God above my own petty problems.
Sure.
And I'm so glad I left that place, because from what I hear, on the grapevine, is that place didn't do too well. So in a sense, that was also a blessing. But at the time, I chose not to be bitter about it. So I'm going to pose that challenge to people out there. I know it can be very easy to be bitter towards God when things aren't going right. But I challenge you, even though it's hard, to continue to glorify and worship Him. God's got a plan, and if you trust in that plan, He will make your path straight.
Cool.
So,
Nice. Well, this has been the Make Creative Podcast, episode 12.
Episode 12,
I almost
that's
said
it.
11, but
That's-
it's 12.
that's 1 year of
That's
podcasts.
1 year of podcast. That's 1 year of being on YouTube.
That's right.
By the way, that's 1 year.
Wow, that's crazy.
We can talk about that another time.
Yeah.
We've run out of time.
Yeah.
But you can find us on all our social media links, obviously, here at Make Creative. Why don't you subscribe? Why don't you like the video? It helps us out heaps. It helps us to continue what we're doing, and continue on our purpose that we feel like God's called us to. You can follow us on Instagram at Make Creative Worship, and you can.
And we're going to have the links here, and here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
cool.
can follow us on
Facebook.
on Facebook. Yeah,
Yep.
Make Creative. You can find that wherever it is on the screen. Good luck, Sam. Have a great week. We love you guys.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Peace out. See you later, guys. Have a good one. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye, Joel.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.